going on? No Horsing Around family. Zach Boyd back at it again. And as always, the No Horsing Around podcast is powered by WagerWire. WagerWire is the first kind of its app able to buy, sell your previously place sports bets, jump in and out of features all season long, cash in on parlays before they bust, and then trade at the game line or the buzzer. It's going to be a game changer, guys. Follow them on Twitter at WagerWire for sports talk and Twitter spaces, and be the first to go ahead and get their app and sign up at wagerwire.com. That's wagerwire.com. Guys, we're so glad to have the one, the only Bob Kravitz. How you been, man?
I'm good, Zach. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. We're excited to have you on. And I guess I'll just start like we always do on this podcast. Bob, what the hell's going on with the I
mean, now you know what the first question to Chris Ballard is going to be tomorrow. What the hell is going on? Well, it's a mess. I mean, you got an owner who is meddling. You've got a GM who doesn't have the power he once wielded. You've got an interim coach who doesn't really know what's going on. And you've got a team that checked out quite some time ago, losing 7 in a row, 10 of 11. So it's a rebuild. I don't know how far away they are, but you need a new coach, you need a new quarterback, you need help at several positions. But when you don't have the coach or the quarterback, you got a ways to go.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it. And I guess it sounds like, just from kind of reading the tea leaves and everything, Zach Kiefer tweeted, kind of expect Chris Ballard to come back and get another go at this general manager. Is that kind of the sentiment and feelings you have, Bob?
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that he's talking to us tomorrow, he's still, the front man when Irsay isn't taking that over. Yes, Chris will get another chance at it. This will be his 7th year. I don't have to tell you, they haven't won an AFC South in the whole time he's been here. He's 5 games under 500. So I think you can make a good argument as to, why he's back. But I think it's very simple, Zach. I think he's paying 2 guys, Ballard and Reich, a lot of money, and he doesn't want to pay 2 guys to not work.
Yeah, 100%. I mean,
how's that?
Baffles me, honestly, Bob. I mean, I don't know of any other scenario where you go to work and you don't do a good job and you get to continue down that path. But however,
that's my entire career.
I love that. Just kind of wing it as you go, right?
Exactly. Just make it up as you go. But no, yeah, Chris Ballard is very lucky that he got that extension when he got it through 2026. Now, will he last through 2026? That's a big question. But, his entire he will be judged on who he picks at the quarterback position, whether he moves up and maybe gets the kid from Alabama, Bryce Young, or Will Levis or CJ Stroud. You got to think one of those 3 guys is going to be there for the Colts. So they got to get this one right, or we're going to look at another 5 years of just kind of screwing around.
Yeah, I mean, you alluded to the quarterback position, and I know he's been pretty hesitant in the past. He's always wanted to go veteran free agency way. Really no choice, Bob. I mean, he's gonna have to select a quarterback here. I don't think it is his choice. I think if he were to turn in a different card, I don't think Jim Irsay would allow him to even not select a young quarterback.
No, yeah, Zach had this in his story a couple of days ago that a couple of years back, Irsay wanted to go the draft route, and they were convinced, especially Frank Reich was convinced that Carson Wentz could be the future, and it didn't work out. And now they're back at square one. And yeah, they absolutely have to go the quarterback route. And I don't think anybody's really trying to hide it. I mean, nobody's beating around the bush. Yes, they're going to get a quarterback. I just don't know who it is.
Yeah, man. I mean, and being at 4, you should have somebody readily available. Now, I guess the interesting question is, would this be an all chips in move, to steal something from Jim Irsay and then possibly trying to jump the Houston Texans and be a trade partner with Chicago? It doesn't feel very Ballard-ish to me, but if ever there were a year, this would be the year, right?
Well, I would take a little issue with that, only in the sense that there's no Andrew Luck or Peyton Manning available. So I mean, unless you totally fall in love with Bryce Young and you feel like you got to go to one, then yeah, go ahead and do it. But I don't know that, I'm not a draft, Nick. You probably watch more film, more video than I do. But how much difference is there really between Bryce Young and Will Levis and CJ Stroud? If there was an Andrew Luck of waiting for them at one, I'd say, hey, go ahead and do what you got to do. But unless they fall in love with somebody, and at this point we don't know. It's very early in the process.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But before that can even come about, it'd be nice to know what your head coach is going to look like, right? And I'll just tell you this: the fan side of me, Bob, is getting very leery that there's a possibility that this Jeff Saturday and Chris Ballard thing happens one more time. I don't know why it would. I don't know what you would stand on if you were to go that route. That being said, I don't know. I mean,
How do you sell that to the fans? I mean, look, Jeff came in under extraordinarily difficult circumstances, which he will tell you over and over and over again. He did, I guess, the best he could, but I thought it was amateur hour. And I realized that they were short on coaches and all that, but it's not like they're completely bereft of coaches. I just think it'd be a really hard sell. There are some players in there who want him back. Some, kind of roll their eyes, but you get that with just about anybody. But yeah, they need to go out. They need to make Jim Harbaugh say no. That's my feeling. If Jim Harbaugh says no, then go and look at Dan Quinn or whomever. I think it's pretty clear, by the way, that Sean Payton is not going to even look in the direction of Indianapolis with a meddlesome owner and no quarterback. Sean Payton ain't coming here. So let's get that out of the way.
yeah, I mean, even some of his comments that he's made, on national TV saying, hey,
Yes.
I don't want to be a part of any of this. You can almost kind of read between the lines
Oh yeah.
when it comes to
There's
that.
no question he was referencing the Colts.
Yeah. I mean, I thought when I heard that, I thought he's talking about the Indianapolis Colts.
Absolutely.
And he's just basically dispelling that, as that goes. Let's talk about Jim Harbaugh just for a second. A lot to like. I know that he has a personality, and you probably know his personality better than I do. Growing up, I always remember Captain Comeback. When we've seen what he's done in college, we've seen what he's done in the NFL. He's had a lot of success.
Mm-hmm.
But I say the Colts, it's a breath of fresh air. They might need that, right? Like a guy who just doesn't really care about the outside as much as he does about building a unit that can last and can win games.
Yeah. Look, I mean, he was enormously successful in San Francisco with Colin Kaepernick, who everybody thinks can't play anymore. But he everywhere he's been a huge success. Is he a weird dude? Absolutely. He's off somehow, some way, but he gets it done at every level. He's done well. So, I mean, to me, that's the home run hire. If they can make it, then all is forgiven. If they can't, my feeling, and I wrote this the other day, I think this is the biggest mess in the National Football League, even a bigger mess than the Denver Broncos. We can agree or disagree, but I don't know that they're going to be able to lure the kind of guy, meaning Harbaugh, that they really want. And look, if Harbaugh comes here, great. Great for Jim Irsay, great for Chris Ballard, but I don't know if he really wants a piece of this.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of likened this move to being what the Pacers did a couple years ago and got Rick Carlisle. Like you went out and got Carlisle's a little bit tough, when it comes down to it, but he has the winning pedigree behind that to back that up, so those players can respond to that. And I think the Jim Harbaugh hire is best case scenario for the Indianapolis Colts, point blank, period, end of sentence.
No doubt, and he'll have coaches he wants, and he's been. You got to think he's been planning for his triumphant return for quite some time. So, yeah, I just think they need somebody who's going to hold people accountable. If he's a little weird, he's a little weird. As you mentioned, Rick is a little quirky too, although I really get along well with Rick, but I'm kind of quirky too. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think that's the home run hire for sure.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Now, is there any concern in your mind that with going with Chris Ballard, they in some ways kind of pigeonhole themselves as the options open for candidates to come in there? Because if I'm a head coach and I have all of this uncertainty, in the organization, doesn't
Yeah.
that scare you? I mean, especially a big name. Now, if you're going to go after a Ken Dorsey or, a
Right.
guy who's just dying to have a job and dying to be a head coach, that makes sense. But if you want to talk about these big names, Jim Harbaugh, et cetera, that's a hard sell, not knowing.
I like to see coaches and GMs aligned in terms of their contracts and when they start. You remember many years ago when they let Jim Caldwell go. Grixon came in, and I thought even though Caldwell did a good job and got them to a Super Bowl, that you really want your own people.
Yeah.
And they went and got Pagano and had some success. So I just think that there should be an alignment there with the coach and the general manager, in the best case scenario.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I don't. It'd be very weird to have that feeling of a new head coach kind of knowing what that general manager situation is, and more than that, well, not knowing who his general manager is going to be down the road. That's kind of a hard ask.
The big thing to me, Zach, is the big thing that would scare me as a coach is that the owner stepped in and put Sam Ellinger in the lineup after, what was it, 7 games, 3-1.
Yeah.
That would scare the hell out of me. I would need every assurance from Jim Irsay that he's gonna, collect Ringo Starr drum kits during the season and not worry about as much about running the football team, because he's a good football guy. He does know the sport. He grew up in the game, but I don't want my owner telling me, mandating, which is what he did, mandating that the starting quarterback get benched.
Yeah, I mean, and Bob, that's fascinating. How do you go back from that? Like, once you take that from Chris Ballard, in a sense, because it feels like to me that Chris Ballard, I know he mentioned in the press conference, a spirited conversation is what they had. I'd say probably a little bit more of a disagreement when it come down to it.
Yeah.
How does that fall back into place?
Well, first of all, it was reported by Tom Pelissero and Ian Rappaport when Saturday got the job that Ballard didn't want Saturday. Yeah. So how do you bring back Saturday, a guy who he didn't want in the first place? So that's a problem. There's so many different ways that this can go. I'm not sure which way they turn at this point, but yeah. I think that Ballard has been emasculated by the owner. The owner has been making impulsive, impetuous decisions, emotional decisions that I'm not sure that Ballard is on board with. And it's going to be interesting tomorrow when we talk to him. I'm not sure when this comes out, but I'm sure it's going to be very, very interesting talking to Chris Ballard.
Yeah, and one thing that I really took away, and I took my notes at that press conference where Jim really took the lead when he introduced Jeff Saturday. He just drowned out the voice of Chris Ballard, in that moment, and then Chris Ballard took his small opportunity, and he was thin-skinned, man.
Very thin-skinned. Yeah, which is unusual
in a different way.
Yeah, it was very unusual. That press conference will go down as one of the all-time most bizarre press conferences ever. Poor Chris Ballard looked like he'd rather be getting a proctology exam.
Exactly.
Honest to God, he looked like he'd rather be anywhere else than up on that dais introducing Jeff Saturday as the interim head coach.
Yeah, I mean, it almost felt like just a facial expression of an Andrew Luck retirement. You know what I mean? Like he was
that's what I thought exactly. I wrote that.
He was just pissed off the whole time sitting up there and like, I cannot believe I've got to, grit my teeth through this right here. And then, Jim Irsay doesn't know how to make sausage. Jim Irsay doesn't know this, doesn't know that, goes off on just these wild tangents. And and then
It's hysterical.
And then you end up hiring a coach who's just really what we thought he would be, right?
Yeah, I
Jeff
mean,
Saturday, terrible situation with no experience. What else would you expect from Jeff Saturday?
I expect them to win 1 or 2 games. I mean, look, you look at the history of interim coaches, it's not good. Now, Bisaccia got the Raiders to the playoffs last year. Steve Wilkes, I believe, went 500 or a game under 500 in Carolina. But by and large, bad teams remain bad under interim coaches. But I just thought Jeff took it a step further. Not only did they lose, but they lost badly, and they lost in really awful ways. And gosh, I just didn't see anything there. Understanding that he walked into a really tough situation, I didn't see anything there that made me say, yeah, maybe with the right people, with his own people, with time to prepare, et cetera, maybe he could do something. He could do more, but I didn't even see that. He came in with the idea that he'd be a great leader of men, and I think that he can be, but it did not resonate with this team. I mean, to give up 33 points in a quarter, to give up a 33-point lead at halftime, to do some of the crazy things they did, that tells me that he just did not have their attention.
No, 100%. He just could not get it. Mike Vrabel, to steal a line from Vrabel a couple of weeks ago, they asked him in a press conference, what do you guys need to do? And he said, we need to do more and talk less. And I think that's probably the way Indianapolis Colts fandom feels about this football team. We're really exhausted, Bob, with the coach speak, and we're just one play away. And even Jeff Saturday said today, we're not as far as people think we are, but you really are, right, Bob? Like
you need a quarterback. If you don't have a quarterback, you're nowhere.
Yeah.
They are a long ways away. Do they have other pieces? Yes, they still got Shaq. They still got Buckner. They still got more. And they got a lot of guys, but without a quarterback, what's the point, right?
Yeah, 100%. Bob, have you heard any names to just be looking out for? I know that I don't know if that's even got started yet here.
It hasn't even gotten started. We're just kind of shooting the bull here, but certainly Harbaugh, you got to make him say no. I think Dan Quinn is somebody that they'll take a look at. D'Amico Ryans. But again, this is just us as journalists and pseudo journalists just throwing stuff against the wall. Until they ask permission to talk to some people, we really don't know.
Yeah. Last question, Bob. You're going to talk to Chris Ballard tomorrow. Do you expect is there any possibility that Chris Ballard has talked to himself and said, I've got to reinvent the wheel? Like, the way I'm looking at things moving forward, it just is not working, and I have to change that? Or is pridefulness just going to set in, and is he just going to say, this is the way I believe, and it's going to work out, or it's not going to work out?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I'll be really curious to ask that question or have somebody ask it tomorrow. Look, he's a stubborn dude, and he thinks that there's a way to build a team. And, there are teams that have been built from the inside out. The 49ers, they're not doing it with a great quarterback right now or anything like that. So I think that they will be more active in free agency. I think you look at the Jacksonville Jaguars, and everybody laughed when they gave Christian Kirk and all those guys, Zay Jones, gave them all that money, Ingram, and they all worked out. They're in the playoffs. Granted, they're 9-8, but they're in the playoffs. So I would suspect that more chips will be in than they were the previous years.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Bob, it's going to be very interesting in the coming days to kind of see what happens. And I know you'll be reporting out there in the Athletic. You got you, James, and Zach. You guys do a great job.
Appreciate it.
What are you guys writing on? Anything we should be looking out for here coming up around the corner?
Well, obviously James and Zach will have plenty on the Colts situation. They're going to have very busy summers, I suspect. I've got a long piece on Tyrese Halliburton. It's going to be in the Athletic either this week or next week. Not that we care about the Pacers on this particular podcast, but just letting you know. And I'll write something for Wednesday afternoon about the Chris Ballard press conference.
Cool. Well, guys, thank you so much. And if you haven't liked, rate, review, share, subscribe, and join this No Horsing Around family, over 2,000 subscribers so far this year. We're so thankful for each and every one of your interactions. And stay plugged in, because we're going to have lots and lots of coverage as this week goes on. Head coaching, Chris Ballard press conference meeting, all of that. We've got you covered. Until next time, go Colts.